What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video with Church with Chris. I haven't been on this channel in a while. I was taking a break for several reasons. And, God was really dealing with me, which was very much needed. And he was showing me things that will happen. And he was also showing me that what I need to do so it can happen. And I can be doing it in the right way that he's called me to. So, for those who don't know, I have two YouTube channels. I have this one, Church with Chris, and I also have another one called Ride with Chris. That's where I do all my car content, and I was doing that kind of stuff. And for those who don't know, like a year ago, I had a motorcycle accident, and from that motorcycle accident, I had a seizure from it. So they said like, hey, you can't drive for a year, like that's like the law. And they said like, you can't drive. So I was really bummed out because I'm like, man, God, I'm trying to do this YouTube channel, Ride with Chris. And I also have a car page called Ride with Chris on Instagram. And I'm like, man, I'm doing this. I seen a couple of videos get like 10K. I seen another video get like 200K on Instagram. And like the views is getting up there. I'm like, man, I'm trying to do this. And then later, like now everything's on like a halt. Then like I was really having that connection time of like, hey God, like what's going on? Like I had a motorcycle accident, cool. But then I'm like, I was good. Then like 2 months later, all of a sudden a seizure comes out of nowhere. I'm like, what's going on? So then later, time goes by and it's like 8 months later since I've been driving. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna drive. So, I get in my car and I drive and everything's good. I'm like, I'm feeling better. I'm like, the year's almost up, da-da-da-da. Then later on the 11th month, I had a seizure. I'm like, all right, Lord, what's going on? And I knew I was stressed out that day too. And I was like, all right, I said, I'm stressed out this day. I had a seizure and I'm like 1 month away from when I'm like able to drive. And I'm like, what's going on, Lord? Then, I was cooling, and then I haven't ridden a motorcycle in a long time. So I was like, let me just go in my development, rid the motorcycle in my development, just go around real quick just to see how it felt. It's been a minute. Then I was like, something told me just go put it up. So I put it up. Then a month later from that seizure, I had another seizure. I'm like, okay. Then I hit up my homie Delano. I'm like, I really feel like God's really like talking to me, because this is where I'm like praying. I was trying to fast. I wasn't really fasting fast. I was trying to. And I'm like, I really feel like God's saying obedience is better than sacrifice. I said, I don't know why he keeps telling me that, but he's like, obedience is better than sacrifice. And I feel like God's saying like, be obedient and wait the full year. And then later, I feel like along that process, he'll help me, heal me, and then I'll be able to drive. And then also what God was showing me too is like, you were so focused on driving. Like every time I got in like an argument or I was frustrated, I'd go to my car, go for a drive. And then I would be listening to either gospel or rap music at the time. Now it's just straight gospel, but I would go to my car and drive. And God really exposed to me. He was like, Christian, like, every time you had a problem and frustration in your life, you always ran to the car instead of running to God. And I was like, oh, you're right. Then he was showing me too, is like, you, with the YouTube channel getting the views, and also too with the Instagram getting the views, he was showing me that like, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But he's like, what are you doing for me? And then I was looking, I'm like, nah, that's facts. So I was like, that's when I started the Church with Chris channel. And I'm like, still going through that. And I'm like, all right, what's going on? Like, why, like, haven't I been doing this for God? And I feel like God was just saying, like, there's nothing wrong with having a car channel, but he's like, what are you doing for me? So that's why I'm doing this, spreading the word. That's why I started doing Christian TikTok and all that. And it's probably been 2 years now since then. And then later, I have to be more consistent in it. I have to put it first. Like, I shouldn't just be like, okay, I'm gonna make a bunch of car videos, then like one Christian video and not even really put effort into it. And then later, car videos. But then, you know, he was just showing me that like I wasn't putting him first. I think God was also teaching me that like, you know, the Lord give it, the Lord take it. You know, he gave me a Camaro ZL1 1LE. That's what I always wanted. But then he also took it right now. You know, you can't drive. And one thing that I saw, but then I wasn't like, okay, let me explain. Like, I felt like God was saying, like, you're idolizing the car. And I'm like, I'm not sitting here saying, like, I worship you, car. I worship you. Like, none of that. But, like, I was giving my time more to the car than I was giving to God. Then, you know, God took that from me. And then that's how he exposed that. He showed that even when, like, I had a seizure and you're supposed to wait the year, I still made the conscious choice and said, you know what, I'm not going to wait the year. It's been 8 months. I'm going to drive. I'm good. Then look what happened in the 11th month. Boom. And one thing I feel like God was telling me too through this time was like, imagine like I was to like rebel and be like, I'm not waiting the full year and drive. And let's say I was to die. Imagine God's like, you know, depart from me. I never knew you. So now you just died and you went to hell. Then imagine if God was to give you a little further info, like, you know, if you were to just wait the full year, he's like, I would have healed you, or you would have saw that your obedience has healed you in a sense of like you're doing what the doctors tell you to do, and then later after the year, now you can drive. But you were being stubborn, impatient, and all this, that now you're dead. And imagine he was saying like these YouTube channels that I'm going to use to grow you and like for you to help and reach other people too. He's like, that's all gone now. Like I always have it in my head. I said, this Church with Chris channel, I said, when I'm monetizing, this makes money. I want this just to be for the ministry. And I said, my Ride with Chris channel, I said, I want that money to be like also like my tithes, but also just money for me to like further that. And I was like, I really feel like God's saying like, it's going to happen, but you have to be patient. And that's one thing he's like really exposing. He's like, Christian, be patient. And then he's also showing me that like, hey, don't idolize these things either. And I'm like, okay. Then also too, it was just like certain situations I'm in right now. I'm like, should I sell my car or should I just be patient and wait? And one thing I'm going to do, like I tried to sell the car twice and they all failed. And I'm like, why can't I not sell this car, Lord? And then later, you know, part of me was going to keep it, but I made the conscious choice and I was like, all right, Lord, I'm giving it up. I said, I know once in a year from now that I'm able to drive. I said, God will bless me and he'll help me out with that journey. But one thing like I just wanted to say is this is why I've been gone for a while, just dealing with spiritual stuff and also health things. But I'm back. But more of this whole story was just to say, God exposed that like I was idolizing, not in the sense of like I worship you car, but my actions were speaking that like running to the car and putting my focus on the car more than God. Also too, he was showing me that like you kind of like smell yourself too much in the sense of like, you know, I'm driving around, everybody like, nice car, nice car, nice car. And I'm like, yeah. Then somebody could be like, oh, you should have got like, let's say a Hellcat. I'm like, bro, you in a Honda. But like, I'm saying that, but I'm like, dang, Christian, you're supposed to be a Christian. You shouldn't even respond and give energy to that. You know, we all make mistakes. And I'm like, you shouldn't even give energy to that. And then also he was showing me too, it was like with women would be like, oh, I like your car, da. Then like women I know too, they like, I like you. Then I'm using the car in a sense, not doing that, but you know, like flirting, getting to that point, and then like they sit in the car and we all chilling. I'm like, Christian, you shouldn't even be doing this. What are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Then he was showing me how like everything he basically gave me, I was using for like evil. Even in the sense when I was driving around listening to like Lil Baby, Travis Scott and all them, you're doing all those worldly things instead of like, if you go for a drive, listening to gospel music, talking to God. So then God's like, right now, like, I'm going to put you on halt gonna put you on a timeout. And he had to break me down to build me up. And it's one of those situations, just like working out. You tear your muscles, but then they grow back stronger. Right now, I am on a tear down, but I know I'm gonna come back from this stronger. And another thing too, God was just showing me was like, also too, God was showing me that, like, let's say, like, you know, if I was to break just, you know, like the rules of, like, instead of waiting a year, I was to be like, no, I'm still about to drive. And God forbid you have a seizure driving and then you kill someone else. You don't realize that now you're facing jail time. Now you're, instead of waiting a year to drive and be good and give your body rest, you wanted to rush it. And now you're about to be facing years in jail. And it's like, God forbid I'm never going through that, in Jesus' name, amen. But it's like, it shows how, like, you can be rushing so much and you don't even know what God's, like, protecting you from. And then it's one of those situations, like I keep bringing up with my friend, you know, when I had that motorcycle accident. It was like a few weeks after, something like that. He had one, but he didn't wake up. He died. And I'm like, when I woke up after I got knocked out from the motorcycle accident, I see the cop and my dad over me. And I'm like, imagine if that was like it for you. Would you have made it to heaven? So when I look at all these cars and different clothes and all this other stuff and like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber so bad. All that stuff is temporary. The next chapter after you die is eternal. And it's like, I was giving my time and effort so much to the worldly stuff that I wasn't putting God first. So that's what I had to realize, and I'm going through, and this is a journey. Y'all gonna see the growth, but that was definitely something I was going through. So I love y'all. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, share this video, and let me know things you going through and God's taught you in the comments. I love y'all. See y'all in the next video. Peace.
Yeah, 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 yeah.